plastic Bertrand. There used to be a carp called Plastic Bertrand in Upper Maynard.
Yeah.
Which was a French import, obviously. But it looked Frenchy, so they got it Plastic Bertrand. Do you remember the song by Plastic Bertrand? La 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 di 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 la. You remember that? You remember that one?
No.
Do you remember this Dan is too big for the both of us?
Oh yes, I remember that.
Sort of similar sort of song. Plastic Bertrand.
Going back to plastic, was it Enterprise that brought out the first plastic?
I think it was, yeah.
I'm sure that's the first pack I ever saw was Enterprise.
Yeah, they were the only. Yeah, they were the originals. Yeah.
And that. So I suppose that really changed the way you could fish your rig, because you didn't have to prat around with real bits of sweet corn and bits of foam.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it made it much easier, but it also made it incredibly easy for everybody else, didn't it?
It was devastating, really, because basically any Jack and Fred could use plastic and achieve the same effect, really, which was unfortunate.
Because I suppose there isn't an angler now that fishes that hasn't got plastic sweet corn in their armoury. Everyone tops their bait with plastic sweet corn, but at the time, I suppose it was a major step forward in fishing, because nobody could do it. We all prattled around with bits of foam and real bits of maize.
Yes.
Or sweet corn.
Sweet corn, yeah. So basically, I used to use sweet corn on St John's, but I found, when I'm after St John, I fished St John's in Hardwick. I used to fish Oxley, so it was my winter water, but I did. Then it moved off to Horseshoe, and of course I couldn't use sweet corn on there, because the first night I used it, I reeled in
a rudd,
3 hairs.
Oh really? The rudd were a nightmare.
Yeah, unfortunately. So, but it took a long time for me to get I couldn't use plastic for a long time.
Right, because you were set in your ways about using what you already used.
I couldn't work out how it would work.
Okay, so. Now, obviously, everyone associates you with linear fisheries and St John's. You've got a swim sort of named after you, and there's a fish that's in Manor that's named after you. Kemp is linear.
Fantastic fish.
What happened? Because I never really spoke to you much after you left linear. In the sort of late 90s, early 2000, I sort of moved on and went in different places. Where did you go after St John's and Manor?
So, I basically went to Horseshoe, and what I liked about Horseshoe, which was really good, was the fact that fish moved. So. In any 24-hour period, you could be anywhere on that lake and
still get a chance
to catch him, which I thought was fantastic.
Now I know you caught your first 40 from there, didn't you? The big known mirror in there.
Patch, yeah.
Lovely fish, cracking.
Yeah.
What a way to open your 40s account.
Yeah, no. Basically, patch mainly come from Winter Bay,
right.
But I tended to focus on up the 40s. I used to get quite a lot of action up there. I did catch 30s along the way, but it was more a numbers sort of area for me. And I just remember fishing. I used to love Horseshoe because it fished really well up to Christmas. But I kind of fished all the way through, and I think it was in December. I was on there, and obviously I noticed the takes are slower because they're like one toners.
We're starting to get a bit more lethargic.
Correct. And I caught Patch up there. I didn't expect to catch Patch in that because she never really got caught from that part of the lake, but she was
a nice surprise.
I was shocked to catch Patch. Yeah, beautiful fish, stunning fish.
Absolutely stunning. I've seen lots of photographs of it. So after that, I know that you're into sort of your competition fishing. I know you started fishing a few competitions. You used to knock around with Tim Fromont.
Correct, yeah.
And I've seen you doing competitions with Brian
Byford.
Yeah. And obviously more recently you've been with Carl.
Yes. Correct.
So is that something you enjoy, competition fishing?
Yeah. Or? So after Horseshoe, I fished. I moved on to Monk's Pit
in Cambridgeshire.
Massively different from any lake I'd fished before, because you weren't allowed to spot on there, and I'd kind of grown up spodding my entire life.
What do you mean you weren't allowed to spod on there?
It was banned.
Spodding was banned?
It was banned.
I never knew that.
Yeah, it was banned on Monk's Pit.
So you were handicapped then? You were fishing with one arm tied behind your back?
I didn't know how to approach it, and obviously it was boilie fishing.
Yeah.
But those 3 years I spent on there were absolutely fantastic. I learnt to fish boilies, and it was that was a fantastic thing for me to learn how to do that, and that's held me in good stead so now I feel I can approach most waters boilie fishing or spodding, and obviously on there I used to fish quite effectively at certain times of the year was single hook baits, which is an alien concept for a spodder.
Yes, it is. It is for a lot of people.
Hard to cast out a single hook bait and just like that's it.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not going to work.
But it is an effective technique, isn't it? If there's only one bait out there and it's in front of them, it's just as good as any technique.
Certainly in the spring when the water's still cold.
Yeah.
Using an attract was devastating on there. I'd mix and match it, obviously, but baited Boilie area, catapult range, maybe a further spot, throwing stick and a single hook ones. But quite often in the early part of the year, it's the single hook bait that went more often than not.
Yeah.
But then as the water warmed up, it then became
a
Boilies.
So how did that sort of stem into your competition fishing then? Was that after March Pit that you really
basically, I'd know. Yeah, wasn't even on my radar. Tim didn't really have anyone to fish with at the time, and I sort of muttered that I might give it a go. Dabble. But to be fair, the first time I ever did do it was actually with Kev Hewitt.
Mm-hmm.
So I was messing around with fishing with Kev at the time on Horseshoe and stuff like that, and there was a qualifier on Evesham Vale, and me and Kev had a little mess around in the winter, catching solid bags, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Kev sort of mentioned about fishing with him.
Yeah.
Because Kev was really friendly with Bart, but I think Bart might have been fishing with someone else at the time. I don't know who it was, but anyway, so I ended up fishing with Kev. We fished Evesham Vale, and we were lucky enough to qualify. And we got to a semi-final on Willen Lake in Milton Keynes, which was big chunk of water.
Yes.
But there was, but it was sort of whet the appetite a little bit. And obviously, Kev then went to fish with Bart after that.
He didn't do very well in match fishing, did he, Kev? Not at all. Look where he went. Fair play, Kev. If you're watching this, Kev, fair play to you.
Yeah, no, obviously fantastic angler, Kev.
Yeah.
I've kind of thought, well, I'll give it a little go. And match fish was completely different from anything.
You've got 48 hours,
and
haven't you?
And it was just like, quite, it is quite exciting.
Yeah.
A lot of it's on down to the draw, obviously, and practicing and every water's different, and you're trying to adapt to a certain water. So I find it really interesting in that respect.
But the downside of match fishing that I can see is how much time it takes up in the course of a season. Because like I say, you have to go and practice.
Yeah.
You can't just walk onto this venue and think you're going to win by going there once.
No.
So you end up actually knocking your own fishing season in an attempt to try and sort of understand how these waters work.
So really, you're right. So what the hardest thing is obviously in the matches is trying to decide a peg sequence, and the only way you're going to know that is by actually fishing it.
Yeah.
You can get information from people and stuff, but it's the only way you're really going to know it. And obviously you do the hard yards, and you might stumble on something that works. Often we would find something that works that's interesting, that give you an edge in the match itself.
Yeah.
So obviously you see what the locals are doing on that particular venue, but you sort of mess around with stuff and you might stumble on something.
Now, I can remember seeing a photograph of you with the big one from down at Elfix. So you used to go down there and have a bit of a sort of a social and enjoy your fishing down there. How did you caught the big one there twice?
Yes.
How did you catch that one?
It was mainly it was mainly maggots on there, to be fair. At the time there was it was mainly carp in there, so it made maggots, and I tended to fish it in the colder months.
Right.
So obviously Boilies work well, obviously, on there as well. But obviously, I tended to fish it between like November, December, January. It was kind of my water venue,
prime maggot time then.
And in fact, when I caught that 50th the first time, basically the following morning the lake froze over. So it was
in the depths of winter. Then.
Right in the depths. So basically, it was this is the way to go generally if you can in any venue in the winter.
Was that your first UK 50?
Yeah, that was the first. So basically it'd been caught, it'd been getting bigger and being plotted. I only dabbled down there. I had no expectation of ever catching that. I didn't even think about catching that particular fish. I was just happy to go down. I often went on in a social sort of thing, and it was just good fun, and then that I just remember catching the fish, catching it and netting it and looking at it in the net thinking,
it's huge.
That's absolutely enormous.
Yeah. Okay, now you're also famous for another thing, because I happen to know that twice in your life you've caught a very, very big brace of UK commons. Now it's probably something, I don't know if anyone's ever done it twice. And I know that you can't really name the venues that you caught them from, so we'll be a bit careful, but just talk us through the first brace.
Yeah, that was from a fairly exclusive lake down in Kent, that's all I can say. and I've got a spring ticket on this lake, and obviously it tends to wake up a bit later in the spring than you would expect. But basically, I sort of turned up there one cold April morning. Okay, so I stood with this guy. He had rods on the ground for about an hour. I didn't see anything. Then I thought, well, if I'm going to go, I want to go in here. If it was a fish that jumped, and of course I just got there, and I thought, well, I got a decision because I was tempted to go to another lake because I thought I'd practice a bit early, and I stood in this swim for about 15 minutes. I thought, right, I'm going to another lake, and I walked back to my car, and I heard a badoosh. At that point, I thought I have to stay. And the rest of the history. But it was an occasion. Yeah, it was amazing because I'd obviously. I knew they were there, but I was too scared to cast out because obviously I didn't want to spook them.
Yeah.
So for the day, I fished really close.
Yeah.
By the morning, the wind had eased, the water started to clear, and I thought, well, I've missed an opportunity. I'm going to have to move. And I remember just sitting on the front of the swim, just looking out into the lake, thinking, I need to move. And of course, I had my buzzers turned off at the rods, and my video was sort of probably about 10 yards away.
Yeah.
And I just saw my right hand rod bounce on the rest and go around. I thought, wow. Cut long story short, I had I think it was a 43 something common, which I was like, wow. Similar time the following morning, literally the same time, I had another take, and that fight on that fish was just incredible. To the point I've not often played a fish where I've been shaking, but the fight was so incredible, and no point during the fight did I think I was even going to land it. I just
wasn't in control.
I just couldn't do anything with it. But of course I landed, and it was like, they call it a long con for a reason. It was just like, I just remember getting it close, and it was just like a crocodile on top of the surface. I thought, I'm not going to get this even the landing there. But I netted it, and obviously it was the long common. It was absolutely stunning. I was just
that's two commons, one weighing just under 44 and one weighing over 55.
That one was that was 54.
54 and a 40 and a double in the same session.
Yeah, correct.
Now, most people in life would be content catching that once in their life, but then you went on a guest session, I believe, to another lake.
So it was a bit weird. There's a lake, I'm lucky enough to have one guest trip there a year, and I'd heard a lot about this particular lake, and so I got the opportunity to a guest trip with a good friend of mine, Dan, and obviously Dan fished the lake a little bit and basically said, well, he said, you go in this swim, I'll go in this swim. I had no idea, never set foot on this lake before, and basically didn't get anything the first evening or night, and sort of the afternoon of the second day I had to take out the blue, and obviously it's quite weedy in this particular lake, so luckily Dan helped me. I'd big ball of weed in, and in the ball of weed was a 44 pound common. Wow. And it was like, wow, I'm really
on a guestie, you bet he was well chuffed.
Really pleased, absolutely overjoyed. And sort of 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, had a take. Because it was weedy, I've never played a carp so firmly in my life, because I knew Dan was probably fast asleep, he wouldn't know I was playing. So I had no backup. So I won't say I straight rodded this rod in, this fish in, but I gave it some bits, put it in the net, went round to see my mate. I said, Dan, I've got one, I think you take a chance to just help us out, sort of thing. I had no idea what it was. He said, no, it's probably the one called a particular name, and he said it's probably a mid-40. I said, okay, wow. Anyway, and he said, oh, sort of the net and stuff. And he said, right. I said, I'll carry it in. And he said, I think you've got the big one. I said, what? He said, it can't be. We weighed in, it was 55.13, and it's like, it's the big one. So
you was on a guestie.
Yeah.
You'd caught a 40, a mid 40, and now a mid 50.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of anyone else that I know of that's ever done a 99-pound brace of commons twice in their life. Now, there's obviously super lakes like Wellington Country Park.
Yeah.
But I still don't know if anyone's ever done that. That's quite a claim to fame. Okay, so finally then, what do you think the future holds for Cliff, Kemp? What have you got any plans to go anywhere? Have you got any sort of fish that you're setting your sights on?
Yeah.
How's it all going to end this year?
So basically, I'm going to focus. I've been unfortunate. My job's not been so good. It's not been very carp friendly really the last year or so. So I've just changed my job, and I'm hoping to focus a bit more on carp fishing. But I obviously still want to dabble with the match piece. But obviously I'm now going to focus a lot more on
your own
on
fishing.
the carp fishing. So I'm in some great lakes.
Okay, well, I'm sure we're going to be hearing plenty more from Kempy because he's got a very technical mind and he's into his rigs. He knows a lot about bait, hence the reason why he has now joined Team Blake's. So in the future, we're going to do a few more bits and pieces with him, and we'll maybe show you some of his rigs, some of his thoughts behind it. And I'm pretty sure that we'll probably show you some really nice photographs of some big fish that he's caught as well. So we will see you in the future.